Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, today's video, I'm going to call both these people right-wing personalities. One of them is debatable, but I don't know if he was in the past, but he is now. John Hinckley. I got to be very careful how I talk about John Hinckley. If you remember, he came to prominence back when Ronald Reagan was president. He spent 30 years in a mental lockdown in a mental facility, and he's out. And apparently he's making country music. And good old Kyle Rittenhouse, man, I'll be honest with you guys, I usually don't hold back my comments. I cannot freaking stand this kid. I can't believe how the right has made him a hero when he is, well, we all know what he is, really. Okay, let me start this. What is cancel culture? I think everybody, I think the right and the left look at it different ways. The right seems to cry about it more, but they use boycotting. They use like money to show their displeasure, their offense in certain people. They like with Kid Rock. On the left, we just tend to, I would say, we just tend to not want to hear them. Cancel it. We don't want you here. We don't want to, we don't want to deal with you. That's my opinion. That's what, my basic feel for this. Why am I bringing this up? Well, down below, there's going to be some links down below. I didn't know John Hinckley was out and making music, country music specifically, country music. And he was supposed to appear right here, like about 10 miles from here, Naugatuck, Connecticut. And he was just, I guess all his shows are being canceled because people, all of a sudden they realize he's out, this is who this guy is. And they, they don't want him in his town because he tried to take out a president and a Secret Service agent. And that ended horribly for the Secret Service agent, Brady. And his events are getting canceled. He makes these, he makes his team makes these, plans these shows, and then people find out he's going to play there and they get canceled. And so he's crying about, he actually said this, John Hinckley said that he is a victim. He's a victim here of cancel culture. All right. I'll have the links down below. That's the gist. I couldn't believe this guy was going to play like 10 miles from here, but it's canceled. Oh, too bad. All right. Anyway, I want to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse mainly here. Okay, so he had a couple events recently, and he got, okay, there's what really happened on the stage at the University of Memphis. I looked this up. The University of Memphis is mostly Caucasian. I think it's 39% black. That's in my opinion, that's a pretty good cross section of America. Then of course there's Latinos and Asian and everybody else, but I would say that's a pretty good, an average cross section of America. Okay, so recently the University of Memphis had to allow him to speak. They have to allow freedom of speech at their university, and I have the videos for this down below. And what I want to talk about is the left wing, what I call the regular media, CBS, People, Newsweek, pretty much portrayed it, and the links will be right down below, what actually happened. I watched these videos over and over again. He was on stage for 30 minutes. He was questioned. There was very few people in the audience. I was surprised. I mean, I would say at the beginning of the show, or the beginning of, and this was sponsored by Turning Point, which is founded by Charlie Kirk, infamous along the lines of Nick Fuentes kind of guy. Okay, so he's the president of Turning Point USA, and that's who is bringing Kyle Rittenhouse to this stage. That's going to come in important in a second. Okay, so let me paint the picture of the auditorium. It's sparsely filled, and when he talked for 30 minutes. He has security. He called this his friend, his security, and his, now see, this is where, and he did a video after the show, and he said he made it safely back to the hotel, and he disputes the media's account of being chased off the stage or driven from the stage. So he's making it sound like, the evil media is made it look like he was chased away. And he said, no, that's not what happened. He said, we had a hard cutoff point, meaning, you know, the show was going to end after a whole 30 minutes, you know. And if you actually watch the show, he was escorted off the stage. You know, the people obviously just didn't want him there. They were asking him the real questions about, especially about Charlie Kirk, and that's the links down, some of the pictures down below. Now, when Kyle Rittenhouse talks about this after, he talks about this. See, in the right-wing media, they called it a service dog. They said Kyle Rittenhouse was driven from the stage with his poor little service dog along in tow. And they used words like he hightailed it off the stage. And the people were brandishing signs. And the rowdy crowd of Black Lives protesters booed him off stage. If you watch the video, okay, they ask him hard questions. At the beginning of this whole thing, a group of people just get up and walk out, and mostly it looked like mostly black students at this event that were there to challenge his views, to challenge what he's saying, and to challenge the views of Charlie Kirk. And that's what the video down below does. There's a guy standing up, and he says, well, what do you think about the racist comments of Charlie Kirk, about George Floyd, about canceling Martin Luther King Day, about canceling Black History Month, and then Charlie Kirk said this other thing about how he would feel unsafe on a plane if there was a black pilot. Okay, these are all things that Charlie Kirk, you know, we've actually seen and heard him say. Okay, so he's asked these hard questions. Charlie Kirk is sponsoring this event, his Turning Point USA. And how does Kyle Rittenhouse answer this? I have no idea. I don't know anything about that, he says. Okay, so of course, you know, he's full of crap, you know, and they call him on it. They go, deflection. They start yelling, deflection, right? To me, that's not booing. That's calling it what it is. You know, he's full of crap. The guy that's bringing him here, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, the company, the program he's working for, he claims to know nothing. Even when I know everything that Charlie Kirk said, come on, he's full of crap. And see, so they call him on it. They start yelling deflection, deflection, and you know there were some boos. And shortly off that, a guy comes up and walks him off the stage. Now, on the right-wing media, they want to make it sound like he's chased off the stage by these angry Black Lives Matter protesters that were yelling and protesting. No, not at all. They asked him hard questions. They stood up, they asked him hard questions, and they called him on it when he was obviously full of crap. Outside this, there was a band, an actual jazz band playing Uptown Funk. After he left, they celebrated and danced in the streets. And there's actual videos of this down below, okay, where there's a guy playing, you know, I think it's the trombone or the trumpet, playing Uptown Funk. Everybody's dancing. Yay! Yay! Kyle Rittenhouse is gone. Yay! You know, and that, okay. So on the right-wing media, though, they make it sound like, you know, the evil, terrible Black Lives Matter protesters chased him away. Him and his poor little service puppy were driven from the stage. And you know. So then he gets back to the hotel, and he says, now, see, this is the interesting thing. Kyle Rittenhouse is just not cut out for this, because he didn't realize that it was right-wing media that was saying all this, trying to make it sound like he was being victimized. So he gets back to his hotel, and he says, oh, he made it back safe. And then he goes like this. He goes, I can't believe all the media. He doesn't realize, you know, in his head, he doesn't realize it's his own media, the right-wing media, that's saying this to make it look like make him look like a victim. Okay, so when he gets back to the hotel, he's like, you know, he doesn't realize that, you know, he realizes that he doesn't want to look like a victim, like he was chased off the stage. So he calls out the media. You know, when in his head, he's thinking, you know, that evil, lying left-wing media. But it's actually, if you look it up, it's the Daily Mail, the New York Post, right-wing media. I went through all these. I went through about 10 different sites, and it's the right-wing media, his own media, they're saying the most bizarre stuff about him being chased off the stage with his poor. And by the way, I'll get to this in a second. You know, so he's contradicting what his own right-wing media portrayed this as. You know, his media is trying to make it look like he's victimized. He wants to look macho and doesn't want to look like he's being victimized. So he speaks out against this, not realizing he thinks he's putting down the lying left media, but really it's the right-wing media that's making him try to look like a victim. I hope that made sense. Now, like on the regular media, CBS, Newsweek, you know, they call it as it is. And I watched video after video, and there was nothing violent about this. They asked him hard questions, and he deflected. And it was obvious that nobody wanted him there. He was escorted off the stage, and he left, and that's it. Now, about the dog. This is where it's interesting. So Kyle Rittenhouse talks, like I said, he makes a video after. The videos will be right down below, so you can watch all this yourselves. And Kyle Rittenhouse talks right at the beginning about his security did a good job. And he mentions Odin. Isn't Odin like a mythological god? One of the, you know, I'm not big on Norse gods or whatever, but he's like a Viking, you know, of course, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse, right-wing Vikings. His dog's named Odin, and he makes it in this video, he makes it sound like his dog is part of security, and he calls about BTS training, I think it is, dog training. But in the right-wing media, they say him and his service dog were driven from the stage, when actually he was at the podium. His security and his dog were off to the side. And the handler, the dog, was looking out at the crowd, not at Kyle Rittenhouse. A service dog stands by the person to give them security. This dog was off to the side of the stage with the security guy holding onto the leash like this, while the shepherd is looking out at all the black people in the crowd, like ready to pounce. That's what I saw in this. You know, and the right-wing media make it sound like him and his poor little his poor little service puppy was driven from the podium off the stage. And that's just, you know. So the amusing thing here, the takeaway, is Kyle Rittenhouse kind of contradicting, you know, because of course he's on the right, he wants the lying media, but it doesn't click in his head that the media that's actually spinning it, blowing this up, is his own right-wing media, trying to make it look like he's a victim. When in general, if you look at all the other mainstream media, they're calling it like it is. Like, you know, the people danced when he left. You know, where the right-wing media is saying, you know, he was chased from the stage. The protesters brandished, they use that word, brandishing signs. Oh, man. I wish Kyle Rittenhouse would just fade back to obscurity in some little trailer in East Texas. That's what I hope for Kyle Rittenhouse. Nothing against East Texas. The links will all be down below. You guys have a great Friday.